In this squash experiment video, we're going to be revisiting the split step. I'll start off by describing what the split step is. Then, I'll address some common misconceptions around it, and finally, I'll be performing an experiment to compare the split step against a player who tries to move from a standstill. I wanted to redo this experiment because in my first video, I was comparing an unrealistic split step with an exaggerated jump to a split step without any jump. This didn't really tell us anything useful about how players really move in a real squash game. That being said, I hope this video will prove to be much more informative and useful. The split step is a movement technique used to quickly accelerate from rest or rapidly change direction. It's used in just about any sport where a player must anticipate movement. Tennis, badminton, and squash are all great examples. In squash, to perform the split step, start out with your feet roughly shoulder-width apart and your heels raised off the ground. As soon as you know where your opponent will be sending the ball, you will drop, splitting your feet into one of 6 positions depending on which direction you must go. By standing on your toes, you're storing gravitational energy. When you drop and split your feet, you can translate some of this stored energy into horizontal kinetic energy. In other words, you can start moving faster. This is an added bonus that you don't get if you simply step forward from a standstill. However, the biggest benefit of the split step is that it allows you to start applying more force to the ground sooner when compared from moving from a standstill. You will see this when we compare the two in a minute. Now, before I get into the experiment, I want to talk about one of the common misconceptions around the split step. I've heard the split step explained as follows. The idea is that as your opponent is about to strike the ball, you hop into the air. Then, as they make contact with the ball, you quickly position your feet on your way down and then explode off the tee. In theory, yes, this is the fastest method. In practice, this is nearly impossible to do. You'll find much more success by using the method I previously described. Raise up on your toes. When you know where the ball is going, split your feet into the position they need to be to take you to the ball. As you play more and more squash, your ability to predict and read your opponent's shot will improve. At a high level, on rare occasions, you may be able to drop into the split before your opponent even makes contact with the ball, but this will not happen very often. I encourage you to slow down some of the pro matches on Squash TV and pay attention to when they split their feet. It will usually be just after the ball has been hit. Anyway, now let's get right into the experiment. My hypothesis was that using the split step, I can get to the ball faster when compared to moving from a standstill. This comparison will be more useful than my first video because typically experienced players all use the split step and new players without athletic backgrounds often move from a standstill. I placed 2 pieces of tape on the tee where I initially stood for each test run and another piece of tape in the front right corner. I started timing as soon as I began moving and I stopped time as I planted my foot on the green X. So what did I find? On average, it took 2.07 seconds moving from a standstill to plant my foot on the X. My fastest time was 1.92 seconds. In comparison, using the split step, it only took 1.57 seconds on average to plant my foot on the X. My fastest time was 1.5 seconds. Statistically, this is a huge difference. By using the split step, I reduced the time it took me to get to the ball by 25%. Let's compare the two fastest runs side by side. You can really see how much more difficult it is to start moving from a standstill. The player on the left is slowly falling forward, whereas the player on the right is able to apply force almost immediately and get moving. Even though the split step does introduce one extra step, 4 steps compared to 3, it's well worth it. Hopefully by this point I've convinced you that you can really improve your squash by working on your movement. If you'd like to learn how to move on court, I have a specialized video series called Movement and Footwork on thepursuitofsquash.com. It's available for premium members, but as always, if you can't afford the subscription of $3 per month, I can upgrade your account for free. Additionally, if you'd like to support this channel and help grow the sport of squash, I do have a Patreon page as well. I'll leave a link to all this in the description below. Last but not least, feel free to comment or like this video as it encourages YouTube to show my videos to more people. At this point in time, it seems subscribing doesn't actually do very much, so if you really want to keep up to date on my channel, sign up at thepursuitofsquash.com.